Hello and welcome to the morning shooting of with RevSportz. Very good morning to everyone present. Good morning, Bharat. Thanks for joining me on the show. Today is fifth, and two more days to go till the match starts. The much anticipated World Test Championship final at Oval. And yesterday, Indian team had their first practice session at Oval. We had our correspondents there, Debashish Sen and Abhijit Deshmukh, sending us reports from the ground. Ishan Kishan had a minor injury while he was batting. He did not bat the full session. He got hit on the left arm and he got off the field, but it's nothing serious. And the focus was on slip fielding as they reported. So, Bharat, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I also saw that he had a minor injury, but yeah, good to see he's fit and fine. Slip catching, obviously, it would be a very important aspect of the game at the Oval in Xena countries. Already wrote a piece on it. See, slip fielding in at the
Mm.
Oval. Yeah, if it gets a little bit like the light gets a little bit dim and all from the northern end, I think it's from the northern end, it gets a bit difficult to catch. But yes, there will be a little bit of juice in it to expect a little bit of juice at the oval on the first 2 days. So at least on the first 2 days, you'll get a lot of catches in the slip garden. And
Mm.
India's slip fielding has improved even although in the last 1 year, Virat Kohli has again started to drop catches. He dropped 4 catches in a single innings against Bangladesh.
Mm.
So obviously India can't afford to do it against a stronger team.
Yeah.
They will not get again and again chances. If they drop Steve Smith or Lebushan, it's right here wrongly if I have to point it out, but it's true that Lebushan is one of the luckiest in that sense. A lot of catches
Mm.
get dropped off his when he's batting, whatever reason, coincidence. He and Ben Stokes are two
Mm.
of the luckiest teams last 4 or 5 years. So better don't drop Lebushan because if you drop, then he has a tendency to go and get 100. But yeah, slip catching is always an important aspect of the game, at least with fast bowlers around. Say in our countries, we expect a lot of catches, at least on the first 2 days.
Exactly, exactly. And Bharat, another thing, as you mentioned, sleep catching is very important in the early hours of the game also. And the weather report as of now has been very dry in England, not much rain. So, what do you think that approach should be after winning the toss, whichever team wins the toss?
Well, I think they should bat first. See, always believe in Ian Chappell's theory. If it is 10 times, 9 times to bat first, or at least 8
Mm.
times, 9 times. And unless there is a lot of grass or something, then only, obviously, yes, unless there's a lot of grass or moisture in the surface, then think of bowling first. So I'm more of a bat first guy. Have oval, at least you
Mm.
would want to bat first, especially I'm hearing that India would go in with two spinners, but one caution, one I'll throw in a spanner there. Surrey have been using a lot of pace bowlers this season, 4 or 5 pace bowlers, and it is early season as well. So uh, there could be a little bit of grass. The last 2 times India played it at the Oval, the first 2 days there was a little bit of grass, so it did a
Mm.
bit. Then it flattened out, and on the final day it helps spinners. So still at little bit of gamble picking two spinners because if we lose the toss, Australia bat first, then
Mm.
one of your main seamers doesn't bowl well, then suddenly you're looking
Mm.
at third seamer to come in and take wickets. Don't have much to do because spinners on the first 2 days at least it's not going to be dust bowl for sure at all. Spinners the first 2 days at least may not get much, so suddenly you could be under pressure. But if it's slightly dry, depends on the pitch. If it's slightly dry, if the Indians feel that there is much grass, the grass that is there is brown grass, then yeah, color of the glass I'm saying, brownish, then they can definitely
Mm.
go for two spinners.
Exactly. And yesterday and the day before, we had Greg Chappell on our channel on the Backstage with Bodia show. And today we have Gideon Hay, one of cricket's best writers ever. So Gideon Hay, I was watching to the interview. He mentions a point that Australians might not fear our seamers, but they will fear two spinners. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's again the point, right? See,
Mm.
if India win the toss, then everything looks good because Well, at its worst, you don't expect, unless there's a lot of moisture underneath, you don't expect the ball to seam around a lot at the oval. It might do a little bit. But if India bat first, get to 400 on the board, 400, 450 on the board, then everything plays out really well with two spinners. The gamble comes in if India lose the toss. 99% Australia will
Exactly.
bat first at the oval. And if they get 400, 450, then it is the other way around. So that's the thing with two spinners, because it's definitely not going to be dust bowl. And you lose the
Hmm.
toss. Australia get
There is a bit of
400,
danger.
450,
Hmm.
and then you have three seamers in one. That that's a decent, there's a good chance that one, at least one of the seamers won't bowl well. Then there's more pressure on
Hmm.
the seamers. So it's still a bit of gamble. But yeah, think tank obviously is there. They look at the pitch conditions and decide.
Exactly. And as we mentioned about Gideon Hay, so we have a small chunk from the interview. Gideon Hay speaking on Ajinkya Rahane. We'll come to that point. So, Swapnil, can you please have that chunk? Then we can discuss.
Ajinkya Rahane, if he's in form, he's one of the first picked, as far as I'm concerned. He's just a kind of he's a center of gravity in that team, which has a lot of kind of flamboyant and ebullient personalities in it. The more kind of aggressive and expansive Indian cricket becomes, I think the more they need Rahane to be in form. Now, just having watched him out here, you and I watched him in that last Border Gavaskar Trophy here. He's an inspirational presence. It's not just what he adds with the bat and in the field, but in the dressing room, I think he's kind of at his best. He's indispensable. So I'm delighted to see him back. I know that there's an absolute constellation of Indian batting talent out there that you could pick, but good on the selectors for actually recognising his merits and his importance, and for making a selection with a sense of what goes to making a cohesive team.
Uh, he mentioned Ajinkya Rahane as the center of gravity of the batting unit. Your thoughts on that, Bharat?
Sure. Yeah, don't want to disagree with him because he's a very senior writer. But I have to add that Rane is a bit lucky in that sense, because
Hmm.
when you look at India's 91 years of history or whatever, if a batter averages less than 40, 38, 39, then don't usually see him playing so many test matches, but he's returning. But yeah, he's a very experienced man and all that. So I have to also consider. I'm just looking at it from both points. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with him, but just telling to look at it from both sides. Yeah, he's an
Hmm.
experienced man. He has had success in Australia. He has failed in England, barring that 100 in 2014. But he has had success in Australia. This is different attack. It's not facing the man who has troubled him a lot in England and India. The 40-year-old guy has troubled him the most.
Hmm.
If you look at the stats, but he's not going to bowl at him. It's Australians, and he has had some success in his Australian team. So that's another important factor to consider. India not playing England in England here. India playing Australia in England. So there's a different attack. I'm not saying the Australian attack is not good, but the lines and lengths would be different to what Mr. Broad or Mr. Anderson or Mr. Robinson would bowl. So uh, considering these facts, because he has had some success in Australia, it does work, because if you have some success against a certain team, then you'd feel that little bit of
Exactly.
positivity. And
The
when you
mindset
consider
was
that,
there.
you might go. But this that not too sure of calling him the center of gravity, but yeah, that's his opinion.
Exactly. And let's move on to a bit on Australian side. Josh Hazelwood got ruled out yesterday, so a big blow for Australia and quite a good news for India. What do you think?
Again, asking a tough question to me, because see, Scott Boland is there. I've seen him ball on grassy wickets, on wickets with a little bit of bounce. So he's a very good bowler in such conditions. I don't think many of them thought that Poland would do well in India, but I didn't think that way, because it's not someone who gets swing with a old ball, and that is
Hmm.
why he took 0 wickets in India. But when there is a little bit of bounce, when there is a little bit of grass, not just for Australia, I've seen him bowl for Victoria for some years is a very good bowler in such conditions. So they may lose out a bit in terms of experience, but I think they have the adequate replacements. Nesser is also there. He's a good swing bowler.
Hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't have the pace, but you can say the swing is from the hand, not someone who swings it a lot late, but it does get a lot of swing there, the Duke's ball. So there are some decent replacements there. So not too sure they would be sort of very worried, but yeah, the experience of Hazelwood would be missed.
Okay. And another one, we talk about Australian pace bowling, but do you think Nathan Land will be a problem for India? Because Nathan Land's record against Kohli is very good, and uh,
Yeah,
he has
again, as I
done
said,
well against India. Your
depends the
thoughts?
toss, right? See, if Australia lose the toss, then I don't think we'll have much to do on in at least the first innings. Then
Hmm.
again, India would have the upper hand if they pick two spinners. But if Australia win the
Hmm.
toss, all the Smiths and Labushans get those runs,
Uh,
get 450, we get 450 on the board or whatever, and then Line comes into his own because he gets imparts nice overspin. I think he's at the best. He's at his best is when he imparts a lot of overspin. Spin is different to how Line bowls. Line is someone who gets on top of sorry gets on top of the ball and imparts a overspin and gets bounced. So in the last innings, if there's a rough patch or two, then definitely he will come into the equation.
hmm.
That is when he's at his best because the Sena from Australia, they know how to bowl on tracks when one rough patch or in India and all you'll get a lot more. You'll get loose soil, crumbling sort of soil, more resistance for spinners. But when there's a rough patch or two, then I think Australian spinners, especially someone like Nine, will be very good at it because he knows which areas to hit, where to hit, and consistently does it. Something that marginally did in Southampton Test, though is much lesser version of Ashwin. But the best thing he did in that Southampton Test in 2018 was he didn't try much. There was one or two rough patches, just hit those rough patches and took the wickets. I think this
Hmm.
is what Ryan also does well. Attack outside off and hits those rough patches. But
Okay.
again, depends on the toss.
And
I think if Australia win the toss,
hmm.
it's
So the toss will be a massive factor for both the team and their team combinations what they choose. And we don't have an
yeah.
IPL impact rule here over
Especially
in.
if India picks two spinners, especially if India picks two spinners, then India would definitely
Uh,
want to win the toss because you don't want two
hmm.
spinners to bowl in the first innings on day one and
And we
English
don't have
conditions, even
impact
if it is
rule.
over.
Exactly. And before and we will cover the whole story from there in Oval. We have the two. We have our two correspondents in Boria that will be also be joining quite soon. But before we end the show, Bharat, Steve Smith, Australia's anchor, you would say, and your thoughts on Steve Smith? He has good record in Oval. Your thoughts?
Yes, great record there. You would like to bat, though recently in the matches he played for Sussex, the county bowlers were trying to hit the pads, something that
Hmm.
Indian, I'm quite sure in the Indian think tank also would be watching it. One of the bowlers obviously played against Ireland, Joe Strong. Siraj, all these guys would be, Siraj, especially the three quarter seam, would be watching it. But Smith has a great record at Oval, obviously, as I said. You also look at someone like Labuschagne, as I said, he's one of the coincidence or what. Lot of catches go down when he's batting. Please don't drop when Labuschagne gets an edge because if you get an edge, he usually gets if you drop it, usually gets a 100, a big 100. Warner again, if the conditions are good for batting,
Hmm.
you might score runs. He's not playing some Stuart Broad out there, troubled him a lot in English conditions. Yeah, they
Hmm.
have good batting lineup. Obviously, left-handers come into the equation again. They also have left-handers. Travis Head is there. That again would might tempt India to pick Ashwin. Lot of subplots in that. So, lot of things to think about for the think tank. But yes, Steve Smith is someone I think he's made a slight change in his game last 6 months or so. It's not shuffling as much as he used to, but yeah, someone who has great hand-eye coordination. As Robin Smith once said, I was reading his
Hmm.
autobiography. There was 2 years ago. Robin Smith said about Steve Smith, a former England batsman. He's now settled in Australia. A lot of parents come out to Robin Smith and tell make my kid look like a bat like Stu Smith. So Robin Smith then had to would say I just somehow explain that Stu Smith is a great player, yes, but you can't copy his style because if someone else tries to, then you would likely fail because Stu Smith's the game is unique. Shuffles a lot, still gets into good positions. But yeah, unique player, great player.
Exactly, and he is a I would say a massive threat for India if he stays on the pitch for long, and he
Okay,
does
but
well in the conditions.
just one thing. India have bowled well, did bowl well to him in 2020,
Mm.
21, if you notice, bowled with straighter fields.
Mm.
I think they will employ such fields and look to hit the pads or get him caught behind, get him caught at like
Mm.
slip or mid wicket in those areas.
Okay, and we'll have lots more to talk about the match as we go on. Whether Ashwin uh, will have that much of impact. Gideon, I remember Gideon here saying that the Australian Indian pacers are quite similar in giving challenge to the Australian pacing unit also to the Australian batters. So we have much to discuss. We have the Gideon here interview today. So for our viewers, keep watching our social media handles. So I'll keep it to this one. This much today in the WTC discussion. We'll be back again tomorrow. And for our viewers, from tomorrow, the Singapore Open is also starting. Thailand Open has not been that great for any Indian shuttlers, so we'll hope to see some shuttlers getting back to the medals podium. So that's all for now. Thank you, Bharat, for joining. We'll be back again tomorrow with the morning shooting of India Sports. Thank you.